cannot believe how long it took, but that's actually how long it takes to create an OTC product, which sunscreen is. It's a drug in the US. We brought to market the first clear gel sun care line in the US, packed with clinically proven skincare benefits. We lean very heavily into our accessibility story. Sunscreen is not marginalized. It's for everyone to wear every day, year round, no matter how dark your skin tone. A lot of our competitors, particularly in the specialty space, were speaking mainly to women. We thought, we love our women, but that doesn't make any sense to us. Men have skin too. Everyone has skin. So we don't want to marginalize ourselves in that way in our marketing and our formulation appeal. So we created a really innovative formula that was priced below $30. So we felt like everyone could covet it and grab it. And we wanted to really lean heavily into our distribution. So today, 17 months in market, we're in about 800 doors nationwide and doubling our door count by Q2 of next year.
This is JumpStart, where women-led early-stage beauty brands learn counterintuitive insights to accelerate their profitability from $1 million to $100 million without spending a fortune on ads, agencies, influencers, and mindless distribution. With your host, Rohit Banota, ex-P&G and founder of the Toronto-based Jump Accelerator. Together, we can create a more humane, conscious, and beautiful planet, a woman's world. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell notifications.
Hey, Emily, I welcome you to What Beauty Founders Do Not Know podcast, which is all about what is it that early stage beauty founders do not know when it comes to growing or scaling up their beauty brands, or find out a bit too late to turn around or achieve their desired goals. And for all my listeners and viewers, Emily is a rock star, PR, marketing, advertising genius. She's worked in the best fashion brands. She's now the co-founder and CEO of Dune Suncare, and she'll tell us more about the brand later on. But from whatever I have gathered, it combines sun care and skincare. And if you ask me honestly, first of all, sun care is a new concept, but I haven't come across a brand that speaks about sunscreen and then skincare and is also disrupting the market. So there's a lot to this brand than just sun care. And I would want Emily to shed light on it later. But yeah, Emily, over to you. Tell us your story. Mei Kwok, your co-founder, how did you meet her? How did it lead to launching Dune Suncare? And I have tons of questions on the brand because I think it's so very well thought of. I just couldn't wrap my head around how could somebody, you're not that old in the business, meaning the brand is pretty fresh and new and young. Even though you're in the early stage category, still you're relatively a very young brand. So I'm very curious. Let's start with your story. You meeting Mei, right?
Mei. She actually changed the spelling of her name back to her original spelling, MEI, but for many years she had spelled it MAY, but she wanted to go back to her authentic roots, really at the inception of Dune. And there's more to that, but just to be her truest and most authentic self, which we love.
Love it. That's a great piece of, I won't call it a trivia. It's a very critical information to understand the core of the brand. So over to you, Emily. Let's get started.
Thank you for your curiosity and moreover for inviting me and creating a platform for female founded brands. I think that's so cool, particularly as a man, giving us a platform and allowing us to share our story. So really appreciate it.
On Tuesdays, I feel like a woman. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Wow, you prompted me with a number of questions. I guess I'll start with how I met Mei, my co-founder. Mei was born in Hong Kong. She actually moved to the US in her youth with her brother and actually lived with her grandparents in Queens for a number of years before her mom actually moved to the States. And the hope for that with her mother was really to give her the most optimal opportunity that America provided to civilians to pursue their dreams. And so I think Mei has always had that spirit about her that she really wanted to make a difference and build something that she could feel proud of. And she slipped up, she fell, she got back on her own 2 feet, and her own personal story is really inspiring. And a huge part of when I first met her, the reason why I wanted to go into business was somebody who had her character. But for a number of years, raised in Philadelphia, lived there for 18 years, graduated from University of Georgia, studied journalism and English, and knew very quickly that I wanted to live in like the advertising, communications, marketing world. I started my career at BBDO in Atlanta, working on the kind of account executive side, liaising between client and agency for the AT&T account, which is headquartered in Atlanta. But quickly knew that I wanted to move to New York and work in fashion in my early 20s. I actually, in the middle of the recession, ended up coming home from work one day. I was living with my parents at the time. And I said, I found someone who's going to buy my car for a profit, which never happens when you drive a car off the lot. It like depreciates in value by 40+%. And I'm going to move to New York and work an unpaid internship for a PR agency in fashion. And I'm going to live with 5 of my best friends from high school. I have it all lined up. It's happening. I'm moving in 2 weeks. I'm dropping my car off to its new owner in Washington, D.C., and I'm going to work Fashion Week the next day, which I did. And I had a great starting salary out of college. My parents were like, Emily, what are you doing? You're going to take on an unpaid internship in the middle of the recession, moving to the most expensive city in America. But they had a belief that I could pull it off, which I did. I ended up landing a job, 3 months working tirelessly in this unpaid internship, trying to find a full-time position, which I landed 3 months later, and rose the ranks in my career, working as the right hand to a number of different designers by way of this first job that I had at a corporate jewelry company called Judith Ripka, working with still one of my main mentors today. She had huge illustrious careers at Condé Nast, Gucci, LVMH. I attribute a lot of what I know now to what I learned in my 3.5 years while I was working underneath of her. And we were working directly with all the C-suite employees. Besides president, I was working directly and reporting into the CFO, COO, and CEO. And Mei and I just kept orbiting around one another for many years. She was this hot DJ. At the time, I saw her just through rosy glasses because she was in that like influential, she hates saying this title, but she was an influencer. She is an influencer today by way of like social media. And she was this like cool DJ who at the time there was really only 4 main DJs. So the last party that I went to in New York City before I moved to LA and brought my consulting business there was the CFDA nominee party where Mei was DJing. 2 days later, got on the plane, moved my life over to LA, and had started working, running operations and launching the LA market for a New York-based company at The Row, which is a big district in downtown LA doing big, large-scale events. And I got an email from a Mei Kwok from a big production house in New York saying, hey, I'm running point on creating the biggest female-run conference called Sophia Amoruso's Girl Boss Rally. And I saw the name and I thought, Mei Kwok, the DJ. That was, I think, my first response in the email. And she's, yeah, I'm also a big production director for massive, like multi-thousand people event. And 2 days later, she actually got on a plane. I did a walkthrough with her in LA. She buzzed in my ear that she was thinking about moving to LA. And at that point, I was in her ear. And 3 months later, she moved down the street from me in Venice Beach, California. And we became fast friends. She poached me a year later to be her co-founder for another company she had ideated on in the hospitality space that actually never came through to fruition. And I actually turned down the opportunity. I didn't have the bandwidth. Also, between us, because she's not here, didn't think it was the best idea. I was like, how are you going to make this successful? How are you going to scale this? It's going to require an innumerable amount of money and resources, which I don't think she had wrapped her head around the business side of it. And then 2 years later, COVID hit. March 2020, Mei was on a weekend, meant to be a weekend-long surf trip in Puerto Rico. That Saturday that she was there for the weekend, COVID was announced and she was on a 3-month lockdown. Wow. Mei has always been really driven by safety, monetary safety. And at the point that COVID was announced, where we had really no view into what that would look like, how long it would take, or what it would look like in terms of our careers, I was furloughed from my job. May's production business and DJing career like collapsed overnight. And she called me in a panic and she said, I'm on lockdown in Puerto Rico. Now we have the time and space to build our dream company. And really, we spent 1 week ruminating on which category we would pursue. And it was immediately sunscreen. We knew that there was a huge opportunity in the market for something that was really innovative, accessible in both price point as well as retail distribution. Some of the brands that we really were coveting were like the Sunbums of the world that we thought did a great job at speaking to everyone with cool branding, but we felt like there was room for more innovation in the formula. We were inspired by the formulas that we were finding really in the Asian market, like clear gel formulas, but none of those really existed in the US market that particularly were infused with 2-for-1, good for you, clinically proven skincare benefits. So we solicited the support of our first lab, who are still our labs today, that built our launch collection, which consists of 3 SKUs. And we went through over 100 experiments in the life cycle development to get to final formulation. We said we want clear gel. We want it to be mint green. Mint green is actually a neutral color on all skin tones, which was strategically why we chose to go with the mint green. We also wanted to play into nostalgia and human psychology at every age range. Like, why gel? Gel at a young age, particularly in a green color hue, represented like Nickelodeon slime. So when we were kids, we were so obsessed with rubbery things. I was always bothering my mom to get GAC for us, or Floam or slime. I was obsessed with Nickelodeon. I just love that tactile nature of gel. And even when I was getting older and was going to Nordstrom with my mom and buying skincare, gel formulas represented hydration. And so I thought that there was something there with the gel and the green mass tone. And so we leaned into that. But what we didn't realize was that it is so complicated to make a gel formula that's compliant with FDA guidelines in the US, unlike the Asian market, where there's different regulatory. So a year and a half later, we landed on our formulations, and 2.5 years later, cannot believe how long it took, but that's actually how long it takes to create an OTC product, which sunscreen is. It's a drug in the US. We brought to market the first clear gel Suncare line in the US, packed with clinically proven skincare benefits. We lean very heavily into our accessibility story. Sunscreen is not marginalized. It's for everyone to wear every day, year round, no matter how dark your skin tone. A lot of our competitors, particularly in the specialty space, were speaking mainly to women. We thought, we love our women, but that doesn't make any sense to us. Men have skin too. Everyone has skin. So we don't want to marginalize ourselves in that way in our marketing and our formulation appeal. So we created a really innovative formula that was priced below $30. So we felt like everyone could covet it and grab it. And we wanted to really lean heavily into our distribution. So today, 17 months in market, we're in about 800 doors nationwide and doubling our door count by Q2 of next year.
Love it. That was very, I always say elaborate, but I would say you filled in all the details. And I have a couple of questions just on your story. So tell me, were you hinted to leave the fashion job by that lady from the back seat of the car, and then you opened the door and never looked back? You get the drift? It's from The Devil Wears Prada, right? Yeah. So because she was an intern too, right?
So sorry, the question is, what is the question?
It was just a joke. You said you had a mentor at that fashion company and you learned a lot from her, and then in the end you decided to leave, right? So I just wanted to know if she hinted that fashion can get very murky and dirty. You should do your own thing. I was just curious.
It's really good because I've worked with the predominant number of my bosses have all been really strong females who've taken a leadership position. So I think being on the other side of it now and sitting in a similar seat, I have a lot of respect and empathy for that experience and the level. When you're working at the top of a business, you have to cater to everybody else's feelings and ensure that they're taken care of, and you're cheering them on and honing in on their wins. I think I take a really different approach in terms of how I want to be as a person managing a team, I want to be really encouraging and not focus on the aspects that they're not doing correctly, because I actually don't think that empowers people to win. I think it does exactly the opposite. So it's been interesting through my own experience working a 9 to 6 job, how I want to be, even it's like how we want to be as a parent when we grow up, is our experience being a kid to our own parents. You identify the pros and the cons and you refine from there. So that's a little, I've derailed a little bit, but I think I have a lot of respect for where they were and how they led, and it's tough. It's really tough. But yeah, I think they're all total rock stars.
Yeah, empathy, right? So everybody is trying. Somebody harder, somebody not, but at least they are trying, right? Tell me one thing. My second question on this, I loved it when you said when first time around May pitched you, you thought it was not such a great idea, because that is the question already had in my mind. So many times I meet people who are just gung-ho about things, right? But these are also people who think of 10 ideas, they try 10 new things in a year, and then they leave it even before they get any traction. So I was just curious, but you answered the question on your own, saying that you yourself felt that it wasn't a good idea and you decided not to pursue. What convinced you second time around was the fact that you had no choice, right? I'm just trying to understand if the second time around when May sent you an email or called you up, it was COVID, and you felt I don't have anything, any other option as of at this moment. Why not take the matter into my own hands and do something about it?
We got really lucky. And I want to say, as a caveat, we were smart about, none of us have a crystal ball. None of us know what the future lies or what lies in our futures. But I think we had a deep intuition that COVID was going to last longer than 5 weeks, which is what the news was telling us at the time. And we felt like we had a real clear window of opportunity where we were taking a government check, had to swallow our egos after working really tough to rise to a certain point in our respective careers. But we always say that we optimize a point in time that allowed us the time and space to build this company. And we don't also think that we're better than anybody else. Like I spent a lot of time reflecting this morning on what came up for me when I was sitting on another podcast and talking about my journey and the opportunity of you approaching me. I'm like, wow, I worked so hard in all these other jobs, and I'm not better than anybody else who works really hard. I just think we found an opportunity and we ran towards something, which obviously takes a lot of perseverance and determination and grit. But I think that I've completely gotten off track. I'm sorry.
No, you are bang on track. I'll tell you one thing, you are one step ahead of me in this podcast. You are answering every next question, because my next question, have you always succeeded in everything you have done, or did you surprise yourself a little bit in this venture? And you answered by saying that you have tried hard in other initiatives, but did not quite taste the success like this. Am I right?
Yeah. Oh, I remember the question before. I think the reason why the hospitality opportunity, I think I've always had at least like a general understanding of what would work and what wouldn't work and what it would require to get something to a point of success. And by the way, we don't think we've succeeded. I mean, we've hit like incredible milestones. There's still so much more to prove in market, but
It's a never-ending game.
It's a never-ending game. But in terms of what I think the core starting point is, what are you passionate about? So the reason I didn't want to pursue the hospitality opportunity that May had started, she sold her 401k to pay for a very expensive branding agency out of New York to build this like beautiful brand around a concept that I thought didn't make sense. The reason being was because you have to then think about business infrastructure. What is it going to require for us to get something off the ground? Moreover, what's the differentiator in market? Because at this point, so many people are starting businesses. And the reason we pursued Suncare was that it's actually a really small category in terms of who's driving the most revenue per year. They're beauty brands that have one-off SKUs that have SPF in them, but they're not categorized as a Suncare company. We were seeing that there was a huge hole in the market to innovate and really win. Whereas in the skincare and beauty industries, it's so saturated with all these options. I think why TikTok has really exploded and help brands like ours, which is where we're putting a lot of focus now. And we just hired our first hire, a social media manager, believe it or not, is because people, even at a younger age, Gen Z and younger, are investing in sunscreen or skincare, and they're obsessed with ingredient stories. So why is your product better for me than the rest? There's so many options on the shelf. How are you going to make me feel and look my best and be worth my investment? And there wasn't the same kind of platform, social media platforms, and education when I was growing up, particularly in sunscreen. We were going to CVS and buying copper tone and not really considering, we just knew when you're out in the sun at the beach at a very specific occasion or by the pool where you're laying out or by a body of water, you had to put sunscreen on. That's what we were taught growing up. And the impetus for that was for health reasons. Today, there's such a huge story around the importance of sunscreen, and it's multifaceted. It's not just because melanoma has risen to be the leading cause of cancer deaths in the US, which, by the way, is the dark truth. The other side to that, which is incredibly impactful, is that it's also the number one beauty product on the market. It's the only preventative to aging in the entire skincare and beauty category. So you can buy a $150 serum or moisturizer from Space NK and Bloomingdale's. It's 100% less effective at keeping you looking young and fresh than a $6 copper tone lotion from CVS. And that is also a fact. So we knew that by infusing 2-for-1 skincare benefits into our products with an innovative gel formula that was inclusive on all skin tones, we knew we were onto something. Because the amount of money and time people are investing into vanity, you think about like Botox, laser, skincare products, beauty foundations, lip oils, all of the products that people are investing in. If we could distill it down to one thing that would hit people across the head in terms of its 2-for-1 benefits for health and vanity reasons, and then create something that was totally differentiated, inclusive, and affordable, and it was available everywhere, we thought those were the secret ingredients to making this win. And it starts with product. Product is paramount. You have to really identify, if you're building something, no matter what the category is, the product has to be exceptional and it has to be different. And then the other side to that with the Mei hospitality question is passion. What are you passionate about? What is something that you infuse in your everyday lifestyle that's pertinent to your everyday living? And what can you really get behind in terms of whether you're going to start a business in whatever it is, building a handbag company? What is it that is different about that product that solves a problem and is something that you actually really love and know a lot about and can put all of your energy, effort, time, money into and feel motivated to push, since 80% of our lives is really rooted in working our careers. So I think sunscreen was really like, it was a no-brainer. With our respective lifestyles and my passion and background in beauty, it was a no-brainer category to tap into and fill that hole.
I usually say this on my podcast sometimes, that within 5 minutes into the recording, I start feeling like an underachiever every time I have a guest. But in this case, like, you're almost half my age, but the clarity you have, and I always tell people, clarity is way more important than just knowledge, right? Like in today's times, people have a lot of knowledge. You can read, even if you just scroll through your YouTube, you'll know about 100 books, and like you can fake an intelligent conversation at a dinner table. But do you have clarity? And I see that you have amazing clarity. And again, you're one step ahead, because that was my next question. How do you distinguish sun care from skincare and from sunscreen? Loved it. Amazing insight. I love the clarity you have when you spoke about how sunscreen answers both the health question and the vanity question, rather than a skin serum that costs $150 and is only going to do one of those jobs, and that too also not that effectively as Dune can, because sun is going to have more adverse effect on your skin's aging. Love it. I can tell who's going to make it. I'm not a soothsayer. And I always say entrepreneurship is about action. But you see anybody who ventures as an entrepreneur, full-time entrepreneur, they already know action. They already are action oriented. Why there's 90% failure rate, in my opinion, is there must be other factors too. But I think people who are able to deliberate a lot around the problem and their solution, which I think is lacking in and could be the cause of, and I'm pretty sure that's the cause of the failure percentage rate. So the kind of clarity you have, the way you explain, and then you went for accessibility, which I think is just absolutely amazing. The size packs that you have, and I have a question for that, right? And I went and I saw on Sephora, Ulta, etc., and I was shocked. They have 8 ounce, 6 ounce products that cost the same, or even at most of the times more than what your product costs. So it's an absolute rip-off, and they don't even offer the benefits that you do.
So I think relatability, I think constantly, and we talk about this all the time in Dune, is human psychology. I'm obsessed with it. Like, what drives us to buy anything at all? What drives us to come back to a product time and time again? Or what are the determining factors to create a household brand name? And in this specific category, we coined a phrase which everyone knows or experiences firsthand. It's universal sunscreen culture. And I'll explain that. So the way we explain universal sunscreen culture is, if I was going to the beach with you and a group of our friends, and say I brought a $6 spray sunscreen that I bought at Walgreens, and I put it on my towel, or I bought a specialty sunscreen that cost me $40, and it was in a 1.7 fluid ounce bottle. That was the sunscreen that I had invested in. It was something that I was probably coveting. I wanted to ration out like precious gold if I was going to give it out to anybody at all. But most likely, my thought would be, I spent $50 on the sunscreen. I kind of want to hide it at the bottom of my beach bag because I want no one to touch it. It's the same way I would feel about a beauty product I spent money on or a skincare product. But if I had laid both of those products down on my towel on a sunny beach day, anyone who didn't bring sunscreen, or even people who brought sunscreen, would still pick up mine to try it. Because at the end of the day, we all just need to get protected. So it's a very different psychology to say skincare and beauty use. Sunscreens are free for all, no matter how much you spend on it or how much you're coveting it. If anything, people will see the more expensive sunscreen next to the $6 spray, and they'll pick it up to use it because they're like, ooh, I want to try this. This is like a special sunscreen. I want to. And then by the end of the day, you're livid because they're both completely out. And the one that you spent a lot of money on, you're like, most people didn't even ask me if I was comfortable with them trying it, or they didn't consider how much I spent on it or how much I'm coveting it. If I were to go to your house and for a party and go into your vanity, I would never pick up like a very expensive serum or a beauty product. Not that you're maybe wearing beauty products, maybe you are on Tuesdays, but I wouldn't use your products just willy-nilly because that would be really selfish and weird. But I would maybe use your sunscreen products. And so when we thought about that psychology that everyone experiences with a group or even with just one other person, we were like, why would we want to spend $50 on a sunscreen? And we've thought about men, even the male market, they're not spending $50 on a sunscreen that's really only available at Sephora. They're being introduced to a product that's that expensive. If their partner bought it, it's already sitting in their house. It's like the family sunscreen. So I think a male's exposure to those more specialty sunscreen is by way of a partner, but probably a female. But we wanted to crack that code because men are starting to care so much about their skincare regimen and how to make themselves look and feel their best. We thought we have a real opportunity to market to everybody. And we want to create like a safe brand for everyone to feel like, wow, this would be really cool to display on my beach towel or in my medicine cabinet and feel really proud by not just the brand, but also the formulations for themselves and their families. We just brought in 2 of the best dermatologists globally as investors who will also be forward-facing for the brand. We're going to start moving into dermatology clinics in 2024. For us as an indie brand to have that validation stamp beyond our 2-for-1 clinicals is game-changing. There's really no other brand in our category, even from specialty to mass, that is selling at an Urban Outfitters to a Goop and a Bluemercury Ulta Beauty, who's also venturing into dermatology clinics besides like L to MD. So this is a really exciting kind of shift for the brand to be derm backed as an indie brand is also how we're pushing ourselves to be even more differentiated and validated.
The category insight that sunscreen, you can leverage the visibility aspect, the sharing of it with others. That is such a brilliant insight. And I had a follow-up question. Have you tried to track? Do you have some impact initiatives? Have you observed people on the beach? That's a great conversation catalyst. Like you can create a conversation catalyst and sponsor, hey, going to the beach, take Dune and share it with your friends.
Oh, wow. You're like our new marketing manager. I think we decide on product innovation to marketing to really so many different facets of the business are just through firsthand experience. We've all been wearing sunscreen since we were kids, since we were like infants. And so we are our best indicator of what the consumer is experiencing firsthand or may want. Mei is really much darker than I am in her complexion. She's a beautiful Chinese lady who will literally stand outside for 5 seconds and get a tan. Like she's already very olive, but I'm as white as they come. My last name's Doyle. You can probably decipher very quickly what my origin is.
Yeah, for sure.
But so our skin behaves very differently when we're exposed to the sun. But yeah, we had very different experiences growing up with sunscreen. She really has never burned a day in her life, whereas like I'm incredibly susceptible to a burn. But our experiences with the application was the same. A white lotion for her would rub in and leave this purple kind of residue. So she says like white cast problems. Whereas for me, I just hated the thick, pasty consistency and was always running away from my mom at the beach, who was like, all right, kids, come on. And she'd like grab our arms and really aggressively rub it into our skin. And it just, the whole experience was awful. So we felt like the
why do moms do that? Why do they apply creams on their kids
so
very aggressively? All moms do that, right?
Yeah. We're all probably experiencing some level of trauma from that experience. Manifesting it in different ways in our lives.
I can recall, I don't know how many times I've used sunscreen, but I can absolutely recall my mom putting cream on my face and rubbing it really hard.
So it was insane. I think every mom shared that trait. It was like a mandatory. When you became a mom, you were an aggressive sunscreen applicator.
I love it.
Yeah, but actually we get testimonials from moms all the time who say, our kids are obsessed with the consistency. They love the green gel. So when it just immediately dispenses, they're like, ooh, what is this? Because of that kind of human psychology of loving tactile things. Like it's why when we're buying beauty products and they're soft coated, like they have a rubbery texture, we're so attracted to them. NARS did that so well with their black matte rubberized coating on all their packaging. It's why we have the rubber bag, which mimics like a wetsuit. It's your water resistant everyday carry all for your Dune products and then anything else you want to throw in there. But people are drawn to it because it's like rubbery and tactile. And we think about that in every different aspect of why we're putting stuff out into the world that we feel people will really love. But yeah, it starts with great product.
Love it.
I was going to say, you mentioned in the questionnaire, we do have competitors and there's some that really do an incredible job with branding and marketing. But Mei and I were never going to bring to market a white lotion SPF. We just felt like that wasn't differentiated enough. And we didn't feel like we could truly build a household brand name that was following the same path that is something that's already existed for decades. There's only a certain point that gimmicky marketing and cool branding takes you before people will move on to something else that's trending. But what always captivates loyalty, especially even for us as customers of other products, is phenomenal product. And there's definitely brands in this space like an Ulta MD that we think have just absolutely done an incredible job in formulation and really hitting like the clinical aspect, which at the end of the day, we're using this for health reasons again.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I thought of 2 acronyms that you can use for aggressive sunscreen applicator parents. ASAP. ASAP.
Genius.
Yeah. And then you could use MASA, mothers who are aggressive sunscreen applicators. So now moving on, like I said, you're a step ahead of me. One thing that absolutely fascinated me was, which you answered already. So you've already answered this question. I'm just phrasing the question for my people who are going to listen to this or watch this, which was, you have done you are clinically backed, you are adding so much value, you combine sunscreen plus skincare, and then you are differentiated, and then you speak about the health and the anti-aging benefits and a hell lot more. You speak about not doing white lotion SPFs. You have something that goes inside the skin pretty fast, right? And one of my questions was, and I don't know if it was in the speed round, but I'll ask it here. You won the battle before going into the battle, right? Like because you are going after penetration, you're targeting everybody, and you knew the insights there. You're offering volume, so it's not that you have hit only one pain point. And it always applies to a brand that goes after penetration. A penetration strategy has to, if you're going after everybody, you have to think about multiple pain points that almost everybody has. So you're like a blue ocean, because I could not find another sunscreen or sun care brand which was doing all of this. And in the end, when you spoke about clinically backed, that blew my mind. Like, usually brands that are like $70 plus or $50 or $100 plus, because clinics are known to keep these premium brands with the assumption that the doctor will sell anything. And that's true. But that doesn't mean that there aren't cheap patients who go to those doctors like me, patients who don't want to spend money.
Oh, most of us are, because it's essential. It's essential and a critical item for everyone to wear. If you're smart, you're wearing it every day. We're always exposed to the sun. So you don't want to spend an arm and a leg on sunscreen that you should be blowing through, frankly. And that was a code that we wanted to crack. You talked about margins at one point. You can still create a high quality product and achieve really attractive margins. Obviously, if you're a D2C brand, you're achieving higher margins. You can optimize. You're not coming in with like keystone margins to wholesale retailers like we have, for example. But specialty brands that are selling $50+ sunscreens, it's not necessary. It's not a mandatory. You can still achieve high margins in this category, but you have to be really meticulous about a number of different things to keep your COGS down. But it's very possible. We've done it. I mean, we have really attractive margins while still being able to provide a suite of sun care products that are priced below $30. And for us too, that was a win. We're definitely identify as a masstige brand, but plan to roll into more mass stores as we go and offer different categories within the larger sun care umbrella that speak to hopefully every person without telling you. We have new categories coming out this year, which we're really excited about. And then we have a whole new category that we're launching in 2025 for a younger audience. I'll just say that much.
I'm absolutely 100% convinced that whatever you do, you will do it very well and you will succeed. And I've seen that with the brand that you have launched, and everybody has seen that now. So just a small follow-up on your margins. Is your margin similar to the brands that charge $50, $100 in terms of percentage, or you make up for this margin with your COGS go down because you offer higher volumes?
I do not know what other brands' margins are.
90%. You don't have to answer this question. Yeah, you could just say your margins are very decent. That's fine.
Yes, our margins are decent. Your margins get better over time. Reason being, your MOQ, your minimum order quantity, will go up as you scale if you're selling product. So you can institute new terms with your contract manufacturers, your lab. You can actually, if you have any overlapping, like raw materials, for example, you can actually buy those in greater bulk, which brings that price down at a greater volume. So there's like a multitude of different levers you can pull to actually improve your COGS. So we think about all those things like really after a year of being with a lab or a contract manufacturer, even 3PL, which is your distributor, you can institute terms, which helps. But buying at volume is also helpful in bringing your quotes when you're doing the math and you identify price per unit. Those will go down significantly the greater the MOQ is.
I'm pretty sure your emotional resonance is with Greta, but I can tell you think like Elon. question everything. All the he has this algorithm.
Butter me up. I'll take it. Thank you. Wow, he's the most successful man in the world, so I'll take it.
Of course. I absolutely am a big fan. Like I'm Elon, they call them musketeers, like Elon Musketeers. So I'm one of them.
That's cute. I like that.
You've been in the market for now 1.5 years?
Exactly. Yep.
And you are in 800 doors, Blue Mercury, Anthropologie, you are in Ulta. One of my questions was, did you have to undertake initiatives proactively to succeed at these retail stores? Because your value is obvious. Maybe you might have to be put in the right category. Are you in the sunscreen category? Are you in skincare? Maybe that could be a difference between Ulta and Blue Mercury, for example. Blue Mercury, obviously, they will recommend, right? It's not a very big format store. Ulta, obviously, where you are placed in the category will matter. And this is my next question, but I have an intermittent question. You want to be $100 million brand, right? Or no? Yeah. And I'll
Yes.
tell you one thing, you will be. Take my word. If I know my stuff, you will, of course, you will have operational challenges. I don't deny that every business does. It's not going to be a smooth ride, but I think you are set up very nicely and you are on track. Obviously, all of this will matter. My next question, are you doing better at Ulta versus Blue Mercury versus Anthropologie? My gut would say, obviously, because the traffic is higher and the share of visibility. Like, let's start with share of visibility in Ulta. Where are you placed in the category in Ulta? And then is the share of visibility same in Blue Mercury and Anthropologie? And where is the volume the highest?
Yeah. It's a good question. This past year was really focused on securing top tier retail relationships at wholesale and getting completely set up on Amazon, pushing ads, set up on A+ content, pushing subscribe and save. 2024, we have some incredible, exciting retail launches coming up with expansion into more doors, whether it's more doors or full chain with our existing retail partners. But okay, I'll start with exposures. So at the start of this year, we launched omni-channel Urban Outfitters. A few weeks later, we launched as one of 3 brands in the Cash assortment with Blue Mercury and in the Conscious Beauty program. So what Cash did for us, and we are the only brand in that suite of 3 brands that was in Suncare, was it put us position-wise at the front of all their major doors across the US. So that gave us visibility to the very devout Blue Mercury customer. It came with a bunch of in-kind marketing and PR, but the positioning in store is what immediately drew people to the brand because for just sheer visibility. From there, we launched a few weeks later in Sparked with Ulta. We launched in Ulta. Sparked kicked off in August of this past year. And I'll talk about Ulta velocities versus Blue Mercury because they are very different. And all of it is rooted in, honestly, time of launch and exposure that we have currently in market as a brand, just as a general brand in the world. Because Blue Mercury launched in February, we were able to optimize the entire spring and summer season, which psychologically, a lot of customers still believe that this is a seasonal product. Obviously, there's more sun exposure or higher UV levels in the warmer months, but it is critical for us to wear sunscreen as much as it is in the middle of July on a hot summer's day as it is on the slopes in Jackson Hole in the winter. The sun's reflecting off the snow. You're almost more susceptible. All of it's rooted in UV levels. So every day you should be wearing sunscreen. But we are able to optimize in that launch time period for the full in-season peak summer months. We launched on shelf in line at Ulta next to all of the main competitors in the space, but we had end caps that launched like big Dune towers at the front of all of Ulta's major doors in August, which was the end of this year, which was the end of the sun season. We were very elated and grateful to hear this week that they are extending our Sparked exposure in store. It was supposed to end in February of this coming year in 2024. They're extending it through August. So that shows to us as a partner to ours that we mutually want to win and we want to optimize in that spring and summer months. So that was a huge incentive for us with Ulta, for both of us to be able to succeed. On our end as a brand, we're pulling all the levers to drive velocity. So what that means is initiating sampling programs. We see immediate conversion when there's testing of our products. We see a lot of success for like in this at hotels, for example, where we have great partnerships. We have these industrial size pumps at the bod guard, which is our clear gel body SKU for every bod every day. So you can put your best bod forward. People test the product at the pool, the beach, the ski lodge, and they're shocked by the way that the product dispenses and how easy it is to apply. And they'll go to buy the product in the gift shop or at the mini bar in their room. So hotel's been a really good case study for us in how sampling succeeds for us, testing. So we have little packets of our 3 top sellers that will be given out at registers at Ulta, Bluemercury, and some of our other bigger doors, which we're excited to see how that impacts customer conversion to buy point of purchase. The second is gratis to store employees. So we want store employees to understand what our brand is and how it's different so they can sell to the customers who are coming in. So we have we have a gratis program. We're gifting like a ton of product to all the store employees at Ulta, for example. We also are coming out with mini bottles that are being sold individually at registers. Really is a super successful, like in the cash wrap, really successful for people who are maybe unfamiliar with a brand to test it at a nominal cost and then fall in love with it, which will then drive them to buy the bigger bottles later. We have on the ground field brand ambassadors in key markets that will be visiting Ultas and educating people on the ground. So there's so many levers that we're pulling to drive revenue at Ulta, which is a huge focus for us. We're in 550 doors. We now have the extension with the Sparked program because of our exposure in Bluemercury and that devout customer. Very different demographic from on Ulta. Our velocity was incredibly high. We were really successful. We're about to go full chain with them next year. They've been really happy with the relationship. Ulta has been incredible, but it's to be seen. Like we're doing all the things to be able to drive velocity and customer loyalty. So we'll see. But that's really what we've been focused on now. All of that's kicking off January 1.
If you go in sunscreen category, so to say, your sheer size will be visible from like when someone enters the aisle, right? So when somebody enters the aisle, they notice the color.
Yeah.
When they're like 3-4 feet away from the product, then they'll notice the shape. Your size will stand out. And then when they're right in front, they'll read and if you have more real estate on the front, because your size is bigger, you'll have bigger font. And if you really catch their attention with 2 things in one. So I'm pretty sure when you're inside the category amongst the other, like your benefit will stand out on its own. And sampling obviously works. So I'm absolutely with you.
Yeah, no, the brand, it's a really good point. We wanted to create a brand that would appeal to everyone. And again, feel really safe for, say, the male consumer who really is going to 24-hour drugstores predominantly to buy their sunscreen. Men are not putting sunscreen on, like they're mitigating sunscreen from their everyday routine, unless they're like in a very occasional setting, like at the beach or the pool, if it provides any sort of hassle. So the way that we've been able to captivate men, even beyond our really neutral branding, is through the clear gel that doesn't leave a white cast in stubble or beards. Because the second they have a white cast in their stubble or beards, they're like, I don't want to use this. Men are very simple creatures. We love you, but you're very simple. A lot of those like very one-off high-end specialty boutiques, surf shops, hotels, grocers that we also sit in, which is where we've been able to build an enormous amount of cachet around the brand. We've been like, we're in all the cool shops. It's by way of our branding. We catch a lot of inbound now from regional markets and all the top stores because of our stockists. So proof is in the pudding. They're like, oh, X has them. We want them too. But really what drives them is we want this cool brand to sit on our shelf. We always say to them, thank you. We're going to send you the product to test because product's most important. You have to fall in love with that more than the branding itself, which it's a double yes. But our branding, which we really heavily invested in the beginning, is where we really have gotten a lot of success and interest on the storefront side.
You are funded, right?
Yes. We are closing up our second round right now. We raised a pre-seed round 6 months prior to launch, which was friends and family. We closed that in a month and a half, and we came in oversubscribed, which was a real teaser to opening our first institutional seed round about 8 months later. And yeah, so we have a compilation of incredible VCs, family funds, and then strategic angels, to be honest. Some of whom that invested in our pre-seed came back and were like, we want to come into the seed round, which is honestly humbling because they've just been so proud to be a part of the ride.
Loyalty of VC, like repeat purchase by VC, what more do you want? That's the proof is in the pudding, like you said. One thing with the field ambassadors, I would recommend attention, education, and sampling. You need not follow the complete model. Otherwise, brands have to complete this loop. They have to get attention, they have to education, then they have to do sampling if you're a $90 serum. But in your case, you will get customers, a lot of them just by attention, then the rest with education, and whatever are left behind, you sample and you get them too. Because obviously you're penetrating the market, right? Perfect. When and how did the thought to have a derm-backed invisible gel? I know we touched upon this, clinically proven to protect and perfect. On top of the gap that you saw in the market for, because you are going volume, men will buy, women will buy. It's so accessible. It's like the mass teach, like we discussed, value teach. I call you value teach.
I like it.
Yeah, because you're offering so much value, right? At an amazing branding. Why the thought to go to these derms, these clinics at such an affordable price point? And this question I might have asked you privately, but do you only want to retail through them, or are you also thinking about maybe offering a few services? They will have professional services, right?
Interesting. Yes. Okay. I would say more in the realm of like estheticians. So like at spas and facialists, why we wanted to get dermatologists in, which felt like honestly one of the biggest feats for us today, and how it's like a conscientious mother that's buying for herself and her family is looking so heavily into the ingredient story. What's the safest option, the most trusted option on shelf that I'm going to grab over and over again? So for us to be able to get that kind of validation stamp that we're trusted by some of the most revered dermatologists was honestly one of the biggest wins. And it started with them falling in love with the product. They obviously spend a lot of time looking at INCI codes. INCI is your ingredient list, your drug fact label, trying the products, using it on their kids, experiencing it firsthand. Ultimately, skin cancer is such a huge problem in the US that they just want their patients to get covered. But when they see something that's differentiated and provides like more benefits than just sheer SPF protection, I think they felt like it was something that they wanted to be a part of. So we were really proud that they came to us and offered to be more integral to the brand. We're really excited to push them more in a forward-facing format on our marketing channels at the start of next year, namely like social media, education on our website, so on and so forth. To be able to be sold in dermatology clinics, and then we're also entering like trade shows in the dermatology sector. So one of our partner dermatologists is hosting a massive booth at the biggest dermatology trade show in the world, where we're doing like co-branded product. They have street teams passing out our product to general passerby. All of those things take us to a whole different level. We just want to create innovative product that's trusted on that clinical level. We've done all the clinical testing and studies, and that requires a lot of money. You have to spend a lot of money to just do general SPF testing or water resistance testing if you have any in your product. But for you to test whether your products are clinically proven to provide 72 hours of hydration, which all of our launch collections do, or clinically proven to reduce fine lines, wrinkles, dark spots, and redness, which our Mug Guard offers, clinically proven to brighten and tighten and hydrate the skin, which our Mineral Melt does. You have to go through all new, which is like a multi-panel test. And after each grouping of tests, you get your results back. And it's you passed at 40-minute water resistance or you didn't. So that's a huge monetary investment. Those tests, just to pursue them, can be between $15,000 to $25,000. So we put a lot of faith in our formulations at the kind of the chemist level, and we were like, let's go for it. We believe based on the ingredient story that we can achieve these, but it's a gamble, it's a risk, and it's a huge monetary risk, but you have to pay upfront. So for an early stage brand, you may be we put a lot of money into branding and formulation, it was like everything we got, shot in the dark, let's roll the dice. We believe we're going to pull this off. Thankfully, we did achieve our hard clinical claims that we were hoping to land, but it's not always going to work. A lot of this is risk taking. I guess that's
name of the game.
Belief and rolling the dice.
Yeah, rolling the dice. You know what? This is coup de grace for your competition, if you ask me. Because if you can do all of this stuff and if you manage to do this, what is left for them? Nothing, right? It's a death blow.
No, they're winning in other ways, and they're winning. A lot of our competitors have been acquired. We're really lucky to have been approached already by a number of beauty strategics that have bought our competitors.
Who was your competitor?
So we break the category out into two sectors. We have mass brands, which are the Coppertones, Banana Boats, Hawaiian Tropics, Neutrogena's of the world that really dominate at the mass level. And then you have the specialty, more modern brands, 100% definitely now by way of distribution, their accessibility story, more of a mass brand. They're sold everywhere, but we would categorize them as more modern.
But they're not Suncare, or are they?
They're fully Suncare.
So they combine skincare with sunscreen?
So Suncare brand just means it's an SPF. Their core brand is, or their core like product thread is providing SKUs with sunscreen. They've ventured into new categories. I believe they have some hair care products and just straight skincare products, but they launched as a sun care company, sunscreen company. Supergoop, Kula, Vacation launched a year before us, which has definitely built a cult following. They're definitely like hitting it in terms of nostalgia and marketing appeal and brand. But
Kula is not an accessibility story. Neither is Supergoop, because I saw their products are pretty pricey, both Kula and Supergoop.
Yeah, and they launched mainly to appeal to women. When we were first launching, which is where we found that there was a white space. We thought Sunbum did an incredible job of really appealing to the masses. I would say we mimicked a lot of their go-to-market strategy in terms of launching D2C, but running to those like high-end surf shops, specialty boutiques, hotels, which helped them to build this incredible cachet and cool factor around the brand. They appeal to everyone in their branding, and we love the Sunbum team. We're like total allies for one another. They've gone to our booths and they're like, we heard you have the sheerest mineral on the market. Let's test it out. And we just have so much respect they're the nicest people, and they've built a best-in-class brand in the category. We found that a lot of those products were like white lotion SPFs. Not to knock, they've been acquired now by SC Johnson for, I think, $400 million. So they're in a good spot. But you have like Supergoop and Kula, who all hail. We're speaking mainly to women. Supergoop's main core impetus was marketing to moms because Holly Thagard, the founder, wanted to bring sunscreen to children on playgrounds. Her story is really interesting. She was like a substitute teacher and a harpist when she started out. But Kula really was speaking mainly to Gen Z millennial and very rooted in like feminine branding. And they did a really amazing job of infusing skincare benefits, but not at the level where it was clinicals. It's more of a note to or a nod to has vitamin E, or it speaks more to ingredients that offer skincare benefits, but not going through the motions of going down that clinical path and clinical trials to be able to put hard clinical claims on the front of pack like we have.
The amount of understanding you have now of the competition and category, when you launched, did you have the same understanding? Because the way you're telling me, like you have such a refined understanding of competition. Like you could do a position map on a slide right away. And I'm pretty sure like you've been in the business for now 3 years. But when you launched, did you have the same amount of understanding, or it got refined over a period of time?
I think I knew a lot going in. I think you have to understand the market, educate yourself on what the competition is doing and where the hole is. If I were to start a skincare company, unless it had like a certain clinical technology or something that I could patent, it would be really hard for me to raise the ranks unless there was, of course, again, cool branding and marketing can take you somewhere. But ultimately, to create like a best in class household brand name is a whole different, there's a whole different strategy I think you need to approach at the inception of building the company. And a lot of that is, what problem are you solving? On the founder level, it's how quickly can you solve those problems? What resources do you have? How smart are you about spending money? A lot of founders that Mei and I had worked with would just throw tons of cash at marketing straight out of the gate, like following like a template to how they believed other brands were winning, which didn't garner any ROI. We've done none of that. We've saved over $4 million in marketing spend just by way of relationships alone with Google and H&M and talking to major airlines right now and concert venues and trying to see how much we can just optimize with the brand that we've created and just being kind and wanting to partner in the vein of we're two brands coming at this and let's create something that's fun that people will really love, whether it's in an experience or a giveaway or something on a marketing platform. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I've gone off on a tangent once again. What was I saying?
You're like my friend, and I don't know how many times I go on a tangent. That's like my favorite thing to do, that it's no more a tangent. That's like my main thing. So don't worry. I love it. And you didn't go on tangent, actually. You were explaining exactly what I asked you. Now, we have come to the end of our deep dive section. We have two more sections. The last will take a couple of minutes. The second last is when the going gets tough. It's just about one question. You've only been in the business for 2 or 3 years, and you spent close to 2 years or over 2 years in the formulation stage, which, by the way, is the magic number. I must have spoken to around 1,000 founders in the last 5 years. Everybody who has had great formulation have spent over 2 years on formulation. Such a simple proxy for getting great formulations. So was there a time in these last 18 months, you actually launched in the worst time, COVID, so I think everything was rosy from there. But did you experience a very tough time? And what was the situation and how did you overcome both intellectually and what inside you? Was it a behavior, a trait, whatever?
I think you have to have an undying belief that you're going to, this may sound like overly confident, but I think this is a truth that probably most people have to, maybe it's like ingrained in our DNA, but you just have to have this undying belief that you're going to do it and you're going to win. I think for me, it's really formulaic. We're not perfect beings, and we certainly don't have all the answers. I think acknowledging that, but knowing that you can figure it out, like when there's a will, there's a way. There's so much excitement around, you should be building a lot of excitement around the opportunity to educate yourself. COVID was really just the time and space that we had to build this. Weirdly, COVID lasted 2.5 years, which was exactly the amount of time we needed to build this, to bring it to market. But I believe there's never, even through all the hurdles, there's never been a point where I'm like, this isn't going to work. Even when I have an investor conversation, and I've had over 100, well over, whether it be with big VC firms, sophisticated angels, family funds, multiple rounds of diligence, just can absolutely destroy a human being. It's so debilitating. The amount of no's that you get, you have to have this sheer level of resilience and belief that you're going to prove them wrong.
The previous guest, Sarah Hamilton, she's the co-founder of Sand and Sky, if you've heard of a brand, skincare brand. Yeah. She said the same thing. She said, blind faith in what you're doing.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I think the whole thing is a puzzle. So it's every day you wake up and you have a different task at hand that you have to figure out. You have to find the piece for. And when you find that piece, there's another piece that connects it to another.
How many hours do you work in a day? This is just for me.
Oh,
I'm just curious.
We're huge believers in balance. So I think that Mei and I have spent a lot of time, we've worked in respective 9 to 6 jobs. I say it's 9 to 5, but let's be real, no one ends their day at 5 p.m. If you do, good for you. You figured something out. I worked in companies where I was working till 10 p.m., 11 p.m. at night. I think even the most successful entrepreneurs really hone in on efficiency. It's like working smarter. I start my day, I really like steadfast about getting some exercise. For me, I love being outside, getting some vitamin D helps with
With your sunscreen on.
Oh, hell yeah. No, not walking outside without sunscreen. Even sitting by a window, I still wear sunscreen all day, every day.
Your Suncare doesn't block vitamin D, right?
Oh, no. Block vitamin D. No, you need vitamin D.
There are sunscreens that do block vitamin D. Do you know that? Of course, you know it. Yeah.
I don't know that. And I don't know why it would offer that as.
I don't know. I spoke to one brand and she said my sunscreen doesn't block vitamin D. That's my positioning. So
Oh, wild. I've never heard of that before. Oh my God, we would never want to block. Vitamin D is like integral to your health. No, absolutely not.
please continue. Sorry. I'm a master of interjections, like an interject.
Whatever. It makes the conversation turns and twists into something maybe more interesting. We work a regular day, sometimes shorter. Our calls can jam up our schedule, which sometimes frustrates me personally because I write everything for the brand, which requires a lot of focus and quiet time. I love working from home. I just feel like I'm the most efficient. When COVID hit and we were all actually, when I started my own consulting business pre-COVID and I was able to work at a laptop in my living room, I was like masterful at getting stuff done. For me, an open floor plan office is not good for someone who's writing or in communications. For me personally, that's my own experience, but I'm really hyperly efficient when I'm working at home. And yeah, otherwise, Mei goes out and surfs. She's really focused on getting out in the water. That's really important to her and her happiness. For me, it's doing good, getting outside for a little bit in the morning and then doing stuff at night. There are nights for sure when I work a little bit later. I pick up a few hours in the morning on Saturday, but then I just put on like great calming classical music or jazz or pump up music. And I make it a fun ritual. Like I make my favorite coffee. For me, it doesn't feel like a chore.
If you were to work on a PowerPoint, how many hours can you sit on it in a day continuously?
Oh my gosh. If I were to work on a PowerPoint, you mean to finish like a presentation or?
Let's say you have to do edits and make slides more beautiful. My biggest pain point.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have firsthand experience to that because I create most of our decks. I cannot even tell you, I created our entire investor deck, for example, which I don't know, maybe has gone through over 300 revisions, more, a lot of time. I don't know how to answer that.
8 hours, continuously 8 hours.
I think if I really focus, for me, like I'm obsessive about, I have an art background and I'm a creative. I love the creativity aspect. And I think a huge area for us to win and innovate is in brand. So I'm really, Mei and I both are obsessed with brand consistency in our font type, in our colorways, in placement, whether it's skewed left for our logo, like obsessive. I think I spend a lot of time on the design aspect more than I do the writing. I think when you are writing a lot every day, things just come naturally to you. What's wild when you're building the tone for a brand and you're coming up with taglines like ours is cover your assets. Obviously, you can identify the cheeky tone in our brand. Which
you could do cover your ass etc.
We weren't trying to be that explicit.
I was like assets, etc. That's what
minus
etc. Meaning cover everything. Yeah. So
you're a real marketing wizard.
I just have this knack of impressing people the first time around. My beginner's luck is very strong. So I forgot what we were discussing. But yeah, this is for all those founders actually. Some founders that I speak to, they would say, I tried A, B, C, and it didn't work. I have iterated 3 times. My thesis is, and this is what I realized, that people don't know the amount of effort and enterprise it takes, the heartbreak it takes the challenges that you have to overcome to really succeed and make it, the amount of deliberation it needs. So, like when you said 300 times you've edited the PPT, that should, like anybody listening or watching, this is the amount of effort it takes. People think entrepreneurship is all about glamour. They don't understand the amount of effort that goes into it.
And it's creating something from zero. You're trying to create a brand that's different from anything else out there. So it's honing what would speak to you, but then also what would work in market, met with something like building the tone of voice for a brand, building what's your color palette? Why are you going to go in that direction for a logo? You're creating something from zero, and then a tangible thing, for in our case, that you're selling and making people fall in love with. It's a really challenging exercise, but once you get over the hoop, you're in a rhythm. Copywriting for me, for example, bang it out. Like I can bang it out quickly. It takes a lot of time writing all the packaging, copy on our packaging. I'm doing that now for 2 new SKUs we're launching next year. You start following a template, but it's a template you created. It's wild. It's really cool.
Yeah, once you have template, it's far easier to work. Once you have a framework, like the structure is there, then it's easy. It's creating the structure, which is most harrowing because the structure has to be right. But yeah, in the interest of time, this has been my longest podcast. Emily, moving on to the speed round. You've been fantastic. The kind of insights that you gave me are absolutely wonderful. I know everybody has their go-to lingo, and I do say this a lot, wonderful, insightful. But I think the clarity, and the specificity with which you gave me those insights, whether it was retail, sampling, trials, branding, finding a gap in the category, is just absolutely mind-blowing. Now, moving on to speed round, I will give you a few options. It's 1, 2, 3 word answer association, whatever comes to your mind. So you can choose whatever word you want. And when I upload, I always say not for kids, so don't worry about it. Ulta or beauty boutique stores?
Oh, both for different reasons. Beauty boutique stores have been so important to building a cachet around the brand, which I think is really important at the beginning when you're kicking off. We ran to those stores immediately upon launching and continue to accelerate into those new doors in that category weekly. Ulta, for us, leaning so heavily on the pillar of accessibility for us, was allowing us to immediately move into a huge plethora of doors. For us at launch was 550 doors with Ulta. They have a cult beauty following. The power of Ulta is palpable. So both at different times for different reasons, or maybe at the same time for different reasons.
Yeah. You're also a bit diplomatic like me. What's your favorite movie scene of all time? But I do agree with you about different phase of your growth. Ulta plays a role in a particular stage of your growth as well. And beauty boutique stores help you initially, right? But yeah, coming to what's your favorite movie scene of all time? One scene. So that's the thing, reducing it to one scene.
This is so too hard. My mind goes off. Patch Adams and the end of Rudy. I don't know. There's too many. I really love the scene. This is such a girly answer. The Notebook, when there's too many. This isn't even my favorite scene. I'm just going to say it as an example because this question is way too dense with answers.
Yeah, I can give you 20 right now. So I totally understand your predicament. So don't worry.
You can empathize. I love when Noah is so steadfast and determined to win over Allie. And she's also steadfast about not going out with him. And he tracks her down in the street and he tells her like all the imperfections and quality, like good qualities that he has. He's, I can be that. And she says, you're stupid. And he said, I can be that too. I can be smart, I can be adventurous, I can be, and I think that at that point in the movie, she completely comes around to liking him. But he was really persistent in a really authentic way. And I just loved how he changed her mind, opened up her mind to dating someone who was like a different caliber than her, or so she thought. And then she fell madly in love with him.
I love it. I'll go and watch it again at 46. I don't think I'll ever do that. With all the wisdom I've accumulated.
I think a lot of men want to say that they don't love The Notebook and then they try it and their water works.
Younger age, I would have done it for sure. And I might have done it. And later on, I did regret, like, why the heck did I have to do it? On a side note, bootstrap or funding, and I'll put you on the spot here. Who Who do you have more respect for? A bootstrap founder who has made it or a founder who has made it with funding? See, I want to put you on the spot. I know I
How do
didn't
you
give
do
you this
this to
option.
me? Okay, the same answer as question one, both at different times, different stages of the business. I think you have to be really strategic. If you are receiving funding pre-launch, so hyperly strategic about how and where you're spending your money. I think that if you have the opportunity, different category of products or services have different costs associated. If you can bootstrap, excellent. May and I were both, it's not like we had this like massive savings account where we could put towards Dune to pay for our first production run. I actually saved stocks, which had accumulated over time to pay for our first production run. That was a risk that I took. It was also an incredibly privileged opportunity that I had that some people don't have. Most people don't have. So I think you just have to do whatever you got to do and be really smart about how and where you're spending your money to bring it around back home.
You are a great entrepreneur. You'll make for a great CEO. And one day you can even run for the office.
Right.
So win before entering the battlefield or figure it out during the fight?
I think you have to come in with a point of view, a point of difference, and strategy. And then I think you have to run and figure it out in the fight as you go. The business is never going to be what you anticipated from the beginning. It's always going to take different twists and turns, and you're going to have tons of obstacles and like great success points that fell in your lap out of sheer luck or because you're doing something right. But I think ultimately you have to go in with those few things I said at the start of the question, and then you have to work your way through the journey with the notion that it's never going to be what you thought it was.
Agree. Elon or Greta?
Greta. I know you love Elon. You're a musketeer. Come on. Elon's speaks for himself. But I love Greta's came in with real fight and gusto and for a really like important stance at a critical time too, at the ripe age of 20. I love that she is unabashedly herself, and her point of view with her point of education is better than most, if not all. She's so incredibly insightful. Her level of tenacity, getting arrested, coming back, still fighting for the same cause is totally inspirational. Beyond that, I really love how she speaks out about autism. I believe she has Asperger's syndrome, and
Elon does too.
And Elon does too. And he speaks about it when in his monologue on SNL. And I love that his mom was in the audience. But yes, and I think a lot of, honestly, probably really successful entrepreneurs do.
And that's why I feel I'm not that successful. Like sometimes I feel, why do not I have Asperger's? On a lighter note,
I think you're doing just fine with or without. Yeah, to come in at that age as a woman too, I think is wow. She's a wow for me.
Perfect. One word secret to success, just one word.
Belief.
Yeah, I was about to give you the hint, share, and you said belief. Woke, you have to answer in 4 words.
Like what my stance is on wokeness?
Yeah.
I think there is an in-between that
I knew you would say that.
Oh, really? I think the pendulum has swung really far left. I think there's a deep sensitivity, particularly at the younger age. I think a lot of that is imparted by entertainment or movements, which I heavily believe in, but to some degree. But I think the real world requires a level of resilience, and there's winners and losers. There's accountability, there's integrity, there's ownership that all of us as individuals have to be really privy to. And I think that there's a disservice to the younger generation. And I do think that is probably the general consensus. But I do think there's a middle area that hopefully the pendulum will swing closer to that point soon.
So I paid $100,000 for an MBA at Queen's from Canada. And in the end, I realized the answer to every challenging question is it depends. It depends. Some universal answers, balance, it depends, right? You got to do the right thing, etc. Emily, it was such an amazingly shedding light kind of an episode for me, whether it was in the category, the retailing you are doing, and every answer that you gave me, like I was just in awe of how much clarity you have, and you seem like a full package. No wonder you're a writer. Like even when you speak, you so very nicely structure your sentences and the phrases. No wonder you are so diligently honest and full of integrity when you're doing your business, and that is what is getting reflected in the results that you're getting, in investors showing repeated interest in backing you, in retailers working with you and wanting you to succeed with them ever so more. So any message that you have for the audience?
Be smart, look good, and cover your assets.
Well-
Find us on DuneSuncare.com, on our stockist list, on our website, in specific specialty boutiques and retailers and wholesale accounts. We're available on Amazon, and you can find us on social media at Dune Suncare.
Perfect. So all the millions of viewers and listeners of this podcast, whether now or in years to come, Dune Suncare should be your go-to brand because it combines both skincare and sunscreen in one, and it offers you an amazing value. The brand offers both health and anti-aging skincare benefits. What more can you ask for? It is also vetted by derms, clinically vetted, all their formulations. So please go buy as much as you can, share it with as many people as you can, and propagate the universal sunscreen culture. Thank you very much, Emily. Your wonderful evening. It was absolutely a pleasure to host you.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. I loved every minute of it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to this JumpStart podcast for amazing guests and insights on growing your beauty brand. Visit jumpaccelerator.com and take the quiz today to find out how ready you are to make that jump to more than $20 million. While you're there, don't forget to apply for your free 40-day trial. Till the next episode.